So I don't know if they showed the picture. There we go. Isn't that a pretty picture? Oh my gosh, we nailed it. We nailed it. Every time I see it, all I can remember is the 150 degrees in North Carolina on a farm in July, and the bribery that I had to do to get those children to all look and smile at the same time. I'm sure none of you can relate to that. Speaking of relating, moms, I'm sure that during your first pregnancy, you probably were given the gift of a very special book. It's the Bible of Pregnancy called What to Expect When You're Expecting. Anybody? Your great aunt gave it to you, your obstetrician gave it to you, you inherited it from a friend. Well, I thought I would do a little play on that. So what did I expect, and what kind of came at me as unexpected? So I read the book. I'm pregnant with my first child 11 years ago, and one thing I expected was to have morning sickness. Okay, most moms go through this. That's just what I was told I was going to experience. No. I had evening sickness. So I would wake up feeling great, energized, ready to go. 5 o'clock hit every day, and I was gone. I had to send my husband out to eat dinner, and when he came home, he had to shower because I could smell the food on him, and so it was banned. Another thing I expected was back pain. You know, you're carrying a heavy load, your back's gonna hurt. I didn't have back pain. I had carpal tunnel syndrome. Like, I don't even understand that. Like, how are my wrists in pain from being pregnant? But it's true, and I had it with all 3 pregnancies. So that was a lot of fun. One thing I expected, the sweet baby smell. You know what I'm talking about? No. I smelled sour milk all the time. I smelled like it. My son smelled like it. Everywhere I went, I smelled sour milk. One thing I expected was a little baby, a little bit of laundry. No. I have not seen the bottom of my laundry basket in 11 years. One thing I did expect that was a pleasant surprise. I expected to not have any sleep and the sleepless nights, but my first child slept through the night and napped. He still is a good sleeper. You're jealous, right? Notice I didn't say my second and third child, just my first one. We all expect our children to be special and unique and a gift. And I went into my first pregnancy expecting a special child. What I didn't expect was having a special needs child. So a little bit of my story. I'm a 3rd grade teacher, and I have sat on many a meeting and talked with parents about their child. And I found myself, when I was 3 weeks away from delivering my second child, my daughter, sitting on the other side of that table, being told that Jaden, my first child, who was 3 at the time, had autism spectrum disorder. And even though my mom gut had been telling me this for a while, and I suspected it and would ask, just hearing those words, I mean, it was like somebody shot an arrow and it just pierced. And I fell apart. I completely fell apart, and I went somewhere dark really quickly. And, you know, moms, unfortunately, a lot of times when we get a bit of bad news, it's like worst case scenario. And that was all I could think was, you know, this plan that I had for my child and his future and college and marriage and grandchildren and all of the things that he was going to experience. I had this sudden paradigm shift, and it was uncertainty now that I was looking at. I was being told all the things that my child was not going to be able to do, the things that we were going to struggle through, and I fell apart. And I remember Jason, my husband, saying to me one day, several months later, I've heard from the Lord, and he is going to be okay. And I'm like, well, God didn't tell me that. I mean, I didn't hear that at all. But he said it with such assurance and certainty that I could not deny that Jason had heard from the Lord. And I've clung to that. And it hasn't been all unicorns and rainbows. I mean, my son's almost 11 years old in June, and it's been struggle. And I'm telling you, the struggle bus, I've been driving it a lot of times, not just riding on it. It's been difficult. But one thing that I have stuck to was the promise that God told Jason that everything was going to be okay. Let me read you this verse. It's Psalm 119:50. My comfort in suffering is this: your promise preserves my life. And I really felt like that when I read that the words that Jason told me that Jaden was going to be okay was like that life preserver, that it was being thrown to me and that I didn't have to swim and tread and feel like I was drowning, but that I could hold on to the promise. In Psalm 119:76, it says, may your unfailing love be my comfort according to your promise to your servant. And when I was in that dark place and I was struggling with the unknown and that unexpected circumstance, I could learn to trust in his promise, not their prognosis. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not naive enough to say that I don't have to rely on therapists and awesome pediatricians and awesome teachers that have brought my son so far. But I know who I can rely on. Because when I start focusing on the prognosis and the plan that I had, then I start seeing all of the struggle, all of my problem. But when I look at him, at the promise he gave, at the promise he spoke over our son, then I start looking at who the person who is going to deliver me from my suffering, who is going to give me strength when I need it, who I can depend on time and time again, who's never going to fail me. Through it all, I've seen and I've struggled through parenthood, as many of y'all have probably experienced. Not just with a special needs child, but just anything that you've met with that's been unexpected. But all of my children, when I look at all three of them, they're a testament to God's goodness, to his faithfulness, and a reminder that his promises are true and that we can trust him.